Hello, my friends. I'm Amanda from ElyriesEmbers. I'm so happy to be back with you guys to do another video. I have some stuff on my heart that I really am excited to share with you guys, and I'm excited to get started. I just wanted to always start out my videos with a special blessing for you guys, for each and every one of you watching, for whatever stage of life that you're in, for whatever wound or healing that you're working on, just for whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through. I want you to know that I send you my love and I send you magic and hope and light. May you be blessed. So today I've been thinking and I want to talk with you guys about this concept that I have been working on myself for quite some time now. And I just want to approach this subject with a lot of gentleness and a lot of compassion because I think it's something that affects a lot of us and it can be deeply painful. But I wanted to talk about recovering from the fear of happiness. And what does that mean exactly? And how do we get this fear of happiness when, we're born as babies and toddlers and we're growing up in this world? And when we first come here, we're so delighted and so excited to be discovering all these things around us and all this newness and just everything that's so amazing. And then we actually can become afraid of that after we've had trauma. So that's something I wanted to talk about with you guys a little bit today, is that, when we have trauma that happens in our life, then our happiness can start to feel unsafe or unsure, or like it's not really real, or it's not really true, or, oh, well, happiness was just too good to be true. I have to let all of that go now and become an adult, right? But I just wanted to kind of address some of my thoughts on this and see if I can provide you guys with some help today. So I find this concept really important to talk about because in my experience with trauma and the clients that I've worked with their own trauma, I find this to be somewhat of a universal concept that after we experience trauma, whatever that trauma might be, and there's a wide variety of them, that we develop this belief that happiness starts to feel like a risk, like we're taking a risk by being happy, or it's not really real, or it's not really true. We can kind of develop this somewhat pessimistic outlook on life where, oh, this is just all there is. I have to get used to the sadness. So I wanted to talk with you guys about that and give you some pointers and some tips on what does this look like if you're struggling with a fear of happiness, and also how to recover from this, how to start to set yourself free from being afraid of feeling your inner true happiness. So I think one of the first things I wanted to mention to you guys is how to tell if you're struggling with recovering from a fear of happiness, or if you have this fear of happiness after trauma. One of those first things is going to seem like you have safety concerns. You're trying to just, feel like you need to watch out all the time. I have a lot of anxiety around, okay, well, I have to watch out for something bad to keep that from happening, to keep something bad from happening, or I have to watch out for the darkness. If you've had wounding in energetic and magical ways from dark entities or dark forces, you might feel like, okay, I have to learn as much as I can about the darkness so that I can keep myself away from that, keep that away from me. And that's definitely not very happy. It's really hard to be yourself and be this being of light and happiness and joy when you're trying to absorb everything that you can about the darkness and learn all of that. And I am telling you this from personal experience with this. So that's kind of a thing I wanted to point out, is just in general having safety concerns and you feel like you have to keep yourself away from happiness because it's not safe. That's a huge telltale sign that you're having a fear of happiness and you're kind of stuck in that. It might feel like, Also, just this constant sense of being on high alert where you're not even sure what you're watching out for, but, you're watching out for bad things or darkness or, whatever it is that you're looking out for. And usually it mimics or mirrors that trauma that we've been through. Like, if you are struggling with trauma from loss, like you might be on really high alert trying to prevent yourself from having another loss, or trying to prevent yourself from, being abandoned or having any type of neglect. So that is one of the first things I wanted to point out, is that you're justifying, or at least this is something I do, is justifying this lack of happiness or having a fear of happiness as, I'm keeping myself safe. I'm keeping myself safe. And also kind of continuing on that note from, talking about how you're not able to have happiness because you feel like it's a safety concern. Like that's going to be a threat if you do have happiness. But I also wanted to point out, if you're around people in your life that are maybe abusive or not supportive with where you're at in life and the person that you are, it's going to feel like a direct threat, happiness, because you're trying to maintain this standard of being around them to maintain that relationship. So, I think another thing that we can have is, if I'm happy and I'm truly myself, I might lose those people that are around me, and you're actually actively sabotaging your happiness to keep those connections that are toxic or unhealthy if you have that situation going on. And in that sense, too, it might feel safer, to stay sad or to stay depressed or to stay on high alert, because this is something I definitely struggled with, especially where you have traumas that are centered around, where you're having your freedom taken away, or you're having your voice taken away, or your truth that and that you believe is being actively shut down by people that you're around. Or even if you're just in a situation where you're around a lot of people that are very wounded themselves and they're not actively working on their own healing, this can be a huge factor. I think something else too, you guys, that I have found, for another sign that you have fear of happiness and that you're struggling in it, is that it's kind of a more sinister, deep down type of fear. And it's more like, I'm not worthy of being happy. And I can't really actually make this happen, or I can't maintain this level of feeling. I can't allow myself to be happy because I'm just not good enough for that. And, if you guys have that and you have that going on, let me just totally assure you right now that that is absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. You innately deserve happiness, and you innately are good, and you deserve goodness in your life. So I think that that's kind of a sneaky one that we might not think of right off the bat when we're talking about fear of happiness, is, that more deeper inner fear of, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough for happiness, and I can't really make it stick. And so I have these blocks set up against it to kind of keep myself sealed in with my own pain and my own wound. And in this kind of weird way, it's kind of like a comfort. I had one of my clients describe this as, it's comfortable until it's terrible. Like it's sort of like being in a nest. Like you're cozy and comfortable and warm and kind of sucked in, but then it's also like feeling you're sweaty and trapped and you can't move and you can't grow. And I thought that was a really good metaphor for this, where our comfort, where we normally think of comfort as being something good, but that can turn into our comfort zone. And definitely we can have this comfort zone in feeling sad and feeling this fear of happiness, and how it is so scary, and all this coming up after you've been through trauma. So wanted to point that one out. That's another one, is just this this fear of just not being worthy enough to have happiness. And there's one other thing I wanted to point out to you guys around this, and that is the feeling that happiness is just fake. Like, it's not real. You know, I think after trauma, and especially if you've had, you know, kind of layers of trauma where you have one trauma happen and you have another trauma happen and then you have another trauma, and it just kind of keeps feeding off of itself, and you have these layers of wounding that you don't really know what to do with or where to go with this. And, you know, just searching for healing in whatever ways that might have been for you. But I know this definitely happened for me. Is, I think, you know, we can have this where it starts to just feel like happiness is fake. Like, the only thing that's real or that returns is sadness. So it becomes this constant, and I just have to learn to live in the sadness because that's where I've been my whole life. And that's, you know, it ends up being kind of the most comfortable, because every time I get back into the happiness, it suddenly gets yanked away. Or, you know, if I just stay sad, I will have a more stable amount of this tiny amount of happiness. And I think so much of this is so harmful for us and so detrimental. And I know it's some places that I've definitely been functioning out of for a really long time. So I'm trying to put some words around this to give this to you guys in case you're feeling some of this stuff too. And let me know in the comments if I'm missing out on anything that is a sign of you having a fear of happiness, or you know, kind of our ego gives it this logic, you know, well, I have to do this. I have to feel afraid of being happy because, you know, happiness is fake. So let me know in the comments if you guys have other things that I didn't mention here in the video, but I want to move on now to how to start to change this. How can we start to let happiness back in again after trauma? So guys, I wanted to just definitely say that all of these things that I have previously said, these are all super untruths. It is not that happiness is fake. It is not that we have to feel afraid of being happy. It's not that, you know, happiness is something that is just unreal or it's just gonna poof, go away. And I know that it may seem like that. It may really seem like that, but that is something that is still in the wounded perspective. So let me help you guys with the things that I have been doing for myself and for my clients to help you start to shift into this perspective, a more healed perspective about your happiness and about your trauma, so that you can begin to start feeling happiness in your life again. So, sort of like with everything, this fear of feeling happy and allowing it in is a cycle. And in order to start to break that cycle, we have to just do small things that are different. I think one of the most important things where you can start at, if you're just feeling like, I have no idea where to start on how to feel happy, it feels so foreign to me and it feels so far gone and so far away, so long ago. Something, you know, this is kind of an ongoing process, but you realize your true identity and you start to untangle yourself from your wounds, realizing that you are you and your wound is your wound, that it is not you yourself. You start untangling yourself from that and realizing your true identity, bringing that back around and learning about yourself in very small ways, anything that comes up for you, you know, like, well, I prefer my coffee this way, or I like this type of blanket, or what is my favorite color, or do I like sunrises or sunsets better? You know, just tiny preferences, and remembering your true identity so that you can bring about the knowledge of your worth, that you truly do deserve happiness. You truly do deserve that. And you can begin to kind of break down that old belief of, I'm not worth it, I don't deserve it. And like I said, you know, that one being kind of like one of the most sneaky and tricky ones because it's deep down. So that's my advice around that, is to begin to untangle from your wounds and realize your true identity and your true worth. And that's going to start to help get you on that path to being able to feel happiness again. So my friends, also on that note, you want to make sure that you're getting the proper care for the wound that you have. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a metaphor around that. Let's say that you have a gallbladder problem. That is going to require a certain type of wound care. Well, let's say that you have a burn. That's going to require a different type of wound care, or a cut or a broken bone. When we talk about these things in the physical, it makes sense. It makes sense, and we can bring ourselves to this new awareness. But I think when we have psychological wounds or mental wounds or spiritual or energetic or auric wounds, we can kind of be like, oh, it's a one catch treats all, and that's not true. There's different healing available for your unique wound. And so kind of bringing that back around what I was saying in the previous segment is, make sure that you're getting the proper care for the wound that you have. And if you don't know what that is, and maybe you don't even know what the wound is that you're struggling with, because wounds and pain and ego is all very good at camouflaging, please feel free to reach out to me for a personal session. And you can check out my website, ElyriesEmbers.com. I'm more than happy to help work with you intuitively in the spirit realms to know what those wounds are and how to approach them so that you can get the right care for the wound that you have. And that's going to help you with that first step that I mentioned, in that untangling yourself from your wound, where this is me, this is the wound. I'm not the wound. We're not one and the same. You have different identities. So make sure that you're getting the right care for the wound that you have. So as you guys are going through this process of implementing change and releasing this fear of happiness and trying to let happiness come back in, which I'm right there with you guys. I am walking this path too. You might be aware of old beliefs that are going to pop up. And I think this is bringing me to my next point, is that you want to challenge those old beliefs that are saying, oh, you're not worthy of happiness. You're not good enough. Happiness is fake. Happiness is stupid. Happiness always goes away. I have to be on constant lookout for danger. Start to challenge those beliefs. And how you can do that is with a question. If you're not really ready for, like, let's say an affirmation or making a statement about, I am worthy of happiness. If you're not really ready for that and that feels just too far out there and too fakey to believe, then start with a question, and that will help your heart and your mind to open up to that possibility. And so you could phrase this like this: and what if I am worthy of happiness? What if I am truly worthy of happiness? What if deep down what I'm really searching for is my true happiness? What if, I'm going on this path and the next step is happiness for me? And I think when you pose it as a question, instead of maybe sometimes as jumping right to an affirmation, that can really help you to start to shift away from that old belief and that old identity wrapped up in that belief, where, you're just trapped. Like I said, where we have these walls kind of just built around us, encapsulating us into our fears and keeping us away from happiness and things and people and experiences that truly fulfill us and make us happy, from deep within ourselves, where, they always talk about happiness comes from within. And if you're searching for it from without, it's not going to be true and real. So just kind of coming back around, bringing that around, is challenge those old beliefs. Really start to think about that with questions. Picture yourself as your little 1 or 2-year-old self, or 3, and would you be able to say to that child, You are not worthy of happiness. You're never going to have happiness in your life. I mean, when we say it like that, it sounds so wrong. And yet, these are things that we say to ourselves in our mind all the time, every day. This is something I've struggled with almost every day. And so, when you put it like that, you can start to see how wrong and how messed up that is. So start to challenge those beliefs and use questions to support yourself in that. What if? What if I am good? What if I could be happy? What if this is what's next for me? My next tip, my friends, is to lean in. And what I mean by that is to lean in to everything that truly helps you. Lean in. Just allow yourself to not push it away. I don't mean, and you're going to have to use your intuition on this, but I do not mean to lean into things that are harmful for you or things that are distracting or things that are kind of a band-aid fix on this. What I'm saying is lean into the things that truly help. So I guess, an example of this might be if you have a really bad cold, you lean into the things that are going to help you. Hot showers and warm baths and steam and maybe Vicks Vapor Rub and teas and hot soups and the appropriate medicines that you need to care for yourself in this cold. Lean into the things that truly help your wound. And the only person that's going to be able to decipher what truly helps your wound and what is truly not helpful, what is maybe just numbing or maybe pushing it out of your mind or pushing it to the back burner to not deal with, the only person that's going to be able to truly identify that is you. So kind of analyze that and experiment. How we do things and the intention that we do things with is so important. Like maybe take alcohol, for example. Like alcohol might be a great thing for some people. Like I'm going to use that as part of my self-care. I'm going to have a glass of wine. I'm going to get in bed. I'm going to sleep great. But for other people, that might be, I'm going to have a glass of wine so I can force myself through this party, or so I can force myself to go talk to these people that have hurt me so much, or I can force myself to go get this job interview I don't really want. We have a completely, even though we have the same substance, we're still talking about alcohol, we can have completely opposite reactions and how those are applied. And that is going to take you doing some soul searching and looking for evidences of, okay, well, how am I using this? Is this truly making me feel happy? Is it truly letting me lean into the happiness? Or is this pulling me out further into the darkness? It's taking me further away from myself and further away from my center and my truth. And so just do some experimenting, do some soul searching on that. Like I said, I'm available if you guys need my help. But that's something I wanted to say is lean in to everything that truly helps and identify what things are helping and what things might be making it worse. They might be just helping ramp up that fear. And this might be a relationship or a substance or an activity or whatever it is. But just kind of analyze that, the things that you're doing on a daily basis and how they're playing in for you and the effects that they're having on you. So also kind of piggybacking off of that, lean into happiness and lean into everything that's good. I also wanted to say, let the happiness in just one moment at a time. When you have something that's happy, that's happening, and you feel yourself start to tense up and start to like put up that wall against it, and you feel that fear rising, just be present in that moment and allow one little drop of that happiness to sink in. Like, even if you give yourself a visual, like let's say, I have in this moment, let's say I have a whole cup of happiness and I'm going to allow myself to just take just a sip or just a drop of that happiness. I'm going to feel just a little bit of it. I'm going to see how it feels. Experiment with that and allow it to sink in just very gently, very slowly. And as you start to immerse yourself in this happiness and bring it back around and gently start to integrate it into your life again, you can also increase the frequency of happiness. And so, okay, I had just a tiny little bit of that happiness in this cup of whatever experience this is. And now here's another experience. I'm going to have a tiny little bit of that. And this can be so simple, so simple. I'll tell you guys an example from my life. When I was going through a separation and a divorce, I came home and I was driving down the highway, and I just remember this one specific moment was so incredible. But I noticed the yellow of sunflowers, and it was like I had noticed that yellow for the first time in the depths of this pain and suffering that I was going through. It was like I noticed what the color yellow looked like and felt like, and just the simplest of things. So that's kind of what I'm talking about with you guys, is like, notice what the coffee tastes like. Notice how mint feels when you chew a piece of gum. Or notice one color. What does it really look like? Or run water over your hands and just feel what that feels like. So lean in to the things that help and let that happiness in little tiny bits at a time and steadily increase that frequency. I think something I also need to say real quick, pointing out, is that don't judge yourself if you slip back a little bit and you're like, whoa, I'm afraid, I'm freaking out. Like that's whoa. Fear of happiness, this is not safe. Like, don't judge yourself. It's okay. Then let it happen. It's okay. Then you have the fear, and then you just come back and bring it back around when you're ready. I'm going to try again. I'm going to give myself a little taste of this happiness again. I'm going to try to lean in. I'm going to try to look for my true identity again. Don't judge yourself if you have those little slips happen. I think another thing I wanted to point out too, you guys, is check the people that you're around. If you're struggling with a fear of happiness, if you're struggling with a wound you can't get rid of, if you feel like you've been trying everything and you still are doing the same thing over and over and over, check the people that you're around. Check that toxicity level. Try to bring to yourself a new awareness and look at your situation with truth. I gave you guys that example of some physical wounds a few minutes ago, and just the same as we have different physical wounds and there's different medicines or help for that wound, you also can't expect yourself to heal in an environment where it's toxic. We can't expect a plant to grow where there's no sun and no water. We can't expect a burn victim to heal their wound of a burn in a burning building, right? I know those are sort of graphic examples, but I think it really helps it to bring home the importance of this, is that we can't expect ourselves to truly heal and, become this next version of ourselves, in maybe like the concept of a butterfly, spread our wings and come out of our cocoon. If you are around people that are wounded themselves and they don't care about working on it, they are fine with their wound, they're holding on to it, that's their identity, and they're never giving it up. And you guys will know the type of people that I mean when I say that. There's hope for everyone and there's help for everyone, but it is a decision. It is an active, conscious decision to either pursue your wound or to pursue its healing. And there is a definite, defined, conscious difference. So check the people that you're around. Check and see, are these people, are they wanting the true best for me? Are they wanting the true best for themselves? Are they wanting the best for the situation? Am I being exploited? Am I being manipulated? Am I being, talked about behind my back? Are there lies being told about me? And if you're answering yes to a lot of those questions, then it's really time for you to consider to get out of that toxicity and to get yourself as the plant into a place where you can thrive and you can grow. So check the people that you're around. Something that I recently also found that I thought was so cool too, and I think this is the perfect application for telling you guys this, is that when we're working on recovering from fear of happiness, it doesn't have to be that you are happy and you're working on your happiness 100% of the time. It's, you can work on this and allow this happiness in 51% of the time. And 51% is still a majority. That's the majority of the time. And when you are being that version of yourself and allowing that to come in 51% of the time, then that's still the majority, and that's going to still create change. And I think it also alleviates this pressure that we put on ourselves, or I know that I definitely have this kind of pressure on myself of, well, it has to be all or nothing, right? It has to be all or nothing. It's 100% or it's 0. But it's not. It's not. We're all humans. We're all imperfect. We're all working and doing our best and living this life and learning all these things and applying them. And so just keep that concept in mind, like 51%. Like, I can allow myself to feel happy 51%. I'm 51% of the way. I'm working towards it, and don't punish yourself when it's not 100%. And that's great. Like, then some days you're leaving that space open for yourself to say, wow, I mean, today maybe I'm ready to release this fear and I'm feeling 89% happy. That's incredible. And you're leaving yourself open for those times that have that. Or like I said, if you have this experience, like this cup of happiness, and you're ready to drink maybe half the cup, or, like 3/4 of the cup, 75%, that's awesome. Then, you're ready for more than just a sip. And that's signs that you're healing and that you're moving forward. You're moving out of this fear of happiness, and its grasp on you is relinquishing, which it truly is possible. So just keep going, and allow yourself the relief of the pressure that it doesn't have to be 100%, just 51% to make progress and to make positive change. So my friends, just working towards this acceptance and the acceptance of this concept that, it is possible that you could have happiness in your life again, and it is possible that you can release this desperate fear of happiness. And my heart still goes out to you, because I know all these concepts that I talk about are tricky, because I've navigated them myself. I know how tricky they are, and I know how hard it can be and how much identity we do get wrapped up in this. Like, I am sad. This is just who I am. But I truly believe in your happiness and your soul path. And I believe that your soul brought you here to help you learn how to experience happiness in all these different ways. So my last point for how to start to change this cycle and this belief system around your happiness is to just keep gently working towards acceptance. Gently work towards the acceptance that you can truly be happy and that it is real. Just take one step at a time, one small step at a time, and just be gentle and patient with yourself. Forgive yourself when you mess up. I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. Do that to yourself too, and just bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it to your heart, and just one step at a time. And so that's what I have for you guys today. I'm so thankful to be with you guys. I know this is such a deep concept, and these are just the things I'm thinking about right now. I'm sure there's more. Please leave me comments if there's something else you guys want me to bring up or talk about, or if you have questions. And not just about fear of happiness, about anything that you might have questions or comments about. I'm always happy to hear it and happy to hear from you guys. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'll be seeing you next time. Blessings.